Rocket is the key fintech hub in Lithuania, where top creators and founders build the future of financial technologies and the next generation of sustainable innovations. Acting as a dynamic ecosystem, we provide space for networking, expertise sharing, and cooperation, enabling and contributing to the success stories of the finance, technology, and innovation sectors. During the past years, our hub has established a leading position as the home of fintech and core place for fintech community.
Hello guys, my name is Yeva. I'm a community manager here at Rockind. This week we're gonna hack. We're gonna hack cybersecurity problems. On the April 22nd, 25th, we will have 4 exciting days of Rocket Cybersecurity Hackathon, which includes 11 cybersecurity challenges by our partners Vinted, Telesoftas, Saverio, NRD Cybersecurity, and even more. We already have participants and mentors not only from Lithuania, but also from Estonia, Canada, United States, Latvia, United Kingdom, and more. What is waiting for the hackathon participants? So it's 12,000 prize fund, drones, professional development courses, fast track to Startup Wise Guys Accelerator, and much more. So if you haven't registered yet, you still can do it until this Thursday, 6 p.m. More information you can find in the Rocket Facebook page. So now I'm done with the commercials, and let's start hacking from today. I'm more than excited to introduce our guest, one of the most charismatic speakers I know. It's Jenny Radcliffe. So hello, Jenny.
Hi, great to see you all.
Yeah, great to see you. So Jenny Radcliffe is often called people hacker. Guys, she's like more dangerous than a simple hacker, I should say, because she's a social hacker. And as Jenny is saying, I don't need to work on the log because I need to work on the human. And yes, sometimes we humans are often the most vulnerable part of the system that can be cracked. And as you already could guess, Jenny is an expert in social engineering, negotiation, persuasion, and influence, nonverbal communication, using her skills to help clients from global corporations, from law enforcement to poker players and politicians and the security industry. So one more thing about the Jenny. Jenny is awarded as a godmother of security. So hello, Jenny, and how's the godmother of security today?
Well, I was nominated. I didn't win, but thank you. I'm fine. I'm coming to you from a very sunny spring day in the UK. And so I'm really pleased to be with all our friends in Lithuania and beyond. I'm great. Thank you.
Nice. So happy to see you here, and the stage is yours. Please don't hack us, but tell how to hack others.
Okay. Well, let me share my screen. There we go. Oh. Okay. Can we see? What can we see? Are we okay there, Ilya? Eva?
Yeah, we can see.
We can see. Okie doke. I just need to check that I'm moving.
It's a little bit different than usual, but we can see it perfectly.
I just need to, does that slide move?
Yeah.
Okay, no. Right, guys. Sorry about that. We had a little bit different, but we're going to have to share it this way. But yes, hi. I am so glad to be here. And as Eva said, that is a lovely introduction. I'm going to talk to you about the people patch and a little bit about some of those points that came up in that introduction. And why social engineering is the hack that never fails. We've got a hackathon this week, which I'm so pleased to be a mentor for. And I'm going to talk to you a bit about how social engineering works and what we can do to to stop the bad guys and to solve one particular problem that we've got in security, which is black hat hacking. As in the introduction, my name is Jenny. I'm known as the People Hacker online. You can follow me if you find that blue brain, which is also very visible whenever you speak to me. That's really what I talk about. And really what I wanted to go into today was what social engineering is and why hacking isn't all about technology. And to be honest with you, social engineering is the most common hack. It's the hack that always gets through because it's rested on the people. It's about the people. So what is the definition? So we've got the definition here is that it's the manipulation of human factors to gain unauthorized access to resources, to assets, and often by black hat hackers, so we call it black hat and white hat, it's for criminal gain and malicious intentions. But what I do that takes that a step further, and what my definition includes, is that it's the active weaponization of human vulnerabilities and behaviors and errors. In other words, anything that makes us human is weaponizable, is exploitable to hackers and to criminals. And unfortunately, that leaves us very vulnerable. And if you think I'm exaggerating that, just look at this statistic. So we can take lots of statistics from lots of different places, but it's always high 90s, is that all of our security breaches, 95%, sometimes maybe 85, sometimes a little bit lower, but arguably 95% of security breaches are down to human error. That's mistake or manipulation by a human being. In other words, it's humans that are the ones that are behind and the target of all of our phishing attempts, whether you're contacted over your phone for smishing attacks, whether it's via social media and over the internet, whether it's phishing attacks on an old-fashioned kind of phone, or whether it's even physical infiltration. All of these things, whether they're going for your private information, whether they're going for PIN numbers and passwords, all of the security alerts that you see, 95% of them will be something to do with a human. There'll be a human somewhere in the mix. And as it was said in the introduction, that's why I always say, I don't need to be a technical hacker. I don't need to be able to work on locks. If I can work on a human that is behind the security, then I can get in. So I don't work on the lock. I need to work on the human. And I don't need to look like a technical hacker. I don't need to look like with a black hoodie on and sitting behind a laptop to be able to hack people, because if we can hack the humans, then we'll get in. And I do that from an ethical perspective. So I'm hired to do that by companies. But the truth is that most, if we take the term hacker as criminals see people as the weakest link in a security posture. So people are seen as the weakest link. The industry, the security industry, will constantly tell you with all of these headline examples that humans are the weakest link in cybersecurity. Security is only strong as the weakest link. The humans are still the weakest link. Human error is what makes these breaches successful. And basically, it's the human factor all the time that's causing the problem. And it leads to quotes like this. Kevin Mitnick is a famous social engineer. He now helps people. He designs security awareness programs. But he had this famous quote. And the quote is where the title for this presentation comes from, because what he said was, you can't download a patch for human stupidity. In other words, that we'll always be stupid, we'll always be the weakest link, and it is the humans as much as anything else that are going to be the target, and that we're always going to get past. If a social engineer is always going to get past, because humans don't know that they're the target for these hacks. And I know what he means in some ways, because most human beings think that they're not important enough or not rich enough to be hacked. But the truth is that everyone is a link in the chain. Everyone is a node on the network. So whether you work for a huge organization, something like this, these big offices, maybe 3,000 people working there, 3,000 potential ways in, 3,000 gateways into an organization. big companies like this, of course, they're targets because of the money and everything else, right? But smaller companies are targets too, because they're in the supply chain. They're part of that organization. A small company like this, maybe 12 people, a startup, right? An SME, small to medium size enterprise in the UK is what we call it. Those people are easy for me to profile, easy for me to work out who knows what, who has the information, who is connected to what. And their contacts might well be in the larger companies. The bigger companies might have security teams, staff. But honestly, arrogance and throwing everything that we've got at a security posture doesn't keep you safe when the people in your supply chain, your customers, your clients, your suppliers, the coffee shop, the designers, the gardeners, the maintenance, they're the targets as well, because everyone's connected. And even we are connected as individuals. I look at this picture and I think we're in the pandemic time. We're still in COVID times, and seeing these crowds of people now is very strange. But what I'm trying to tell you is that individuals count. You matter to a hacker. Everything that you know and everyone that you know is just part of that chain back to the bigger picture. And so that's why most organizations don't realize, most people don't realize how vulnerable they are to these human-based hacks. And that's why most organizations might as well have this pinned on their front door. So let's look a bit more about who we're talking about. When we say we're talking about social engineers and people doing these hacks, what really do we mean? Well, you've heard me talk about hackers quite a lot, and I said I didn't have a hoodie. And the reason I say that is because in films and on TV and in popular culture, we always see hackers, and they mean criminals when they say hackers, depicted as this guy, usually a young male in a hoodie, hacking away at a computer and trying to break into things and do crime. And unfortunately, it is true that bad guy hackers, okay, so criminal hackers, do use social engineering as well. But I'm going to come back to the term hacker a little bit later. But yeah, technical hackers use social engineering because they need someone to click on the link to open the attachment or to go to that website to get the way in, the key, if you like, to the kingdom, to the building, to the organization. We also have special interest groups like Anonymous in its various forms, citizen journalists, protesters, people with some kind of problem. They'll also use social engineering, partly because it's easy to, well, it's not easy to learn. It's possible to learn online. It's difficult to get good at it, but also because it doesn't leave a very big digital footprint. If we're mostly doing telephone work, if we're mostly doing phishing emails, there's lots of ways to sort of hide your tracks. So it's less easy to track than it would be if it was a more technical hack, potentially. And it also goes to organized crime and to terrorist groups, because a lot of the social engineering hacks, a lot of the cyber attacks are a way of raising funds for other worse activities, like drug trafficking, for example, or even human trafficking. And then we have insider threats as well. So we have the people who work inside organizations and for various reasons within that company have decided to turn rogue against the company. So they could be someone who is an unhappy employee, all the way up to someone who has been planted inside an organization with the idea of getting them to turn against the organization and to steal IPR, to steal designs and secrets of the company, or to coerce individuals within the company. So social engineers can be all those types of people. And the reasons that they do it vary as much as the people who do it. And there are four main ones. And the way to remember these is to remember mice. Okay, so mice as in cat and mouse. The first reason that people do it is the most obvious reason. Okay, the most obvious reason to hack a company or an individual is money. And these are expensive hacks. Average cyber breaches on one-on-one are sort of, you're talking about $250,000, 190,000 US dollars is estimated at, but it obviously can go to millions and millions more depending on the size of the organization. I worked on a case in the UK a couple of years ago where a social engineer had been calling the finance department for about 9 months, had made friends with some of the people who work for the company, had kept that conversation going, and had eventually done a business email compromise. So asked them to pay an invoice into a different account, which was a Bitcoin account. The money stayed in that account for about 1 minute before it was taken out of that account, and they disappear forever. And the amount that was lost was about £300,000. So it was really worth that 9 months worth of work to do that. So the first motivation is always money. And the second one is ideology. And that is a belief that what you're doing is right. So these hacks, these cyber attacks, sometimes on a national level, sometimes are not about money. They're about what we believe in. And whether that's religion, whether that's politics, whether that's some other cause, it's those types of hackers that really do the larger scale attacks and are in some ways more dangerous, because that's a belief. It's very hard to shake someone's belief in what they're doing if they really feel that they're right. So we have money, we have ideology, and we also have blackmail or coercion. So MICE, M-I-C. So the C is for coercion. And this is where things like ransomware come into play, because ransomware, the idea that I've got your files, I've got your secrets, and those are the things that we're going to either expose them and let everybody know what you did, something that you're entitled to, your private life will no longer be private, or whether we found something out about you. So sometimes malicious people find something out about people, maybe something to do with something that you do in your personal life, and they use that to make someone into an insider threat or to turn someone into a threat within an organization. So coercion, blackmail is also a big part of it. And also the last one, the E in MICE, is for ego. So it's the idea that why would we hack a company? Why would we try and hack the government? Why would we try and hack Apple or Microsoft? And the reason sometimes is Everest. It's because it's there. It's because it's ego. Sometimes it's just to prove that it could be done. It's a show of strength and a show of ability for a black hat hacker, if you like. And so those are the reasons it happens. Those are the people that do it. And I'm going to talk to you just briefly now about how this goes on, because I think the thing that's really important for us to all remember is that because this is a human-based attack, we are all vulnerable to psychological hacks. Social engineers particularly focus on our brain, the computer between our ears, to get past. Because if I can manipulate your brain and make you do something, then I don't care about the security that surrounds it, because you're going to get past that for me. So what do I mean? Well, I mean things like automatic behavior. You know, all of us as people do certain things, or maybe not all of us, but enough of us as people do certain things in a certain way that makes us vulnerable. And one of them, for example, would be something like this, which would be social proof. In other words, when we see a crowd of people doing something, then we do it as well. If we think about certain social media platforms, sometimes a social media platform will grow very big very quickly, and everyone sees it as the latest thing to do. And so we all join that platform and sort of assume it's okay to do it and it's a good thing to do just because numbers are high, when sometimes the security of that platform or the purpose of that platform may not be in our best interests. So there's things like social behavior, social proof, following the herd. Sometimes we're just bored, and when we're bored, our guard is down and we're not careful about the things that we do. Sometimes we're suspicious of the wrong people. We think something's okay when it's not okay. We think hackers look like this when hackers can look like this. We sometimes are curious, and our curiosity gets the better of us. And it's the reason why when social engineers drop these things, these thumb drives, these USB memory sticks. If you go into offices, and even now, even years after this was first spoken about from a security perspective, even now, I know that if I go to a car park or an office, right, a place of business or a uni, and I drop these USBs around, I know that people are going to plug these in because they're curious as to what's on them. And it's a human trait. If I write on there confidential, people will find a reason to plug them in very quickly. And if you write on them payroll, they'll do it straight away before they do anything else. So curiosity is a feature. We can distract you. But mostly, the most obvious thing is that if you don't have security in your title, then you don't think security is your problem. A lot of people think that security is a thing that people who work in security do. The hackers aren't their problem because if you don't work to prevent them, then they won't get to you. But the truth is, security is going to be everyone's problem. There's too many hacks and attacks for the police or the authorities to manage them all. We all need to learn to be more careful, and we all need to understand that because you personally are the object of an attack, then you personally need to look after yourself and do the best you can to stop it. So security is not someone else's problem. It's everyone's problem. Those are some of the reasons. And really what this all is about is the part of our brain that works quickest isn't the most reasonable part of the brain. It's our animal brain. It's the part of the brain that acts with emotions, and it acts fast with emotions to protect us. It's the part of the brain that sees a snake and we pull back before we check whether that snake is poisonous. It's the part of the brain that moves to one side when we see a car out of control. We don't stop and think, well, is that snake poisonous? Maybe I should check. And I think I remembered an article about whether those snakes are poisonous, because in the time that we've done that, that snake has bitten us. So the animal brain is the emotional brain, and it's much quicker than the human brain, which is the part of the brain that logically works out whether or not that phishing email is real. It's the part of the brain that we wish we could engage and make people stop and think when they receive an approach from someone, whether it's an email or a text or in person, and let us evaluate properly what's going on. The problem is emotions are quicker than logic, and emotion kicks logic off the cliff. And that's what hackers are trying to do. That's what social engineers are trying to do when they approach you. Whether it's making you scared in an email, right? Because they talk to you about tickets for traffic offences, or you broke the COVID rules, right? Or we've got your files, or we saw you on a website. And what we'll do is a social engineer will give you that, will make you slightly worried. Fear's on a scale like all emotions. You can be slightly worried all the way up to terrified, okay? But whatever it is, we're in that state of fear. And in that state of fear, we'll tell you what the problem is, and we'll say you can get out of this by clicking on this link or telling us this information. And sometimes it's not fear. Sometimes what we'll do is we'll talk about greed or reward, saying to people that, you know, we can hire you. Here's a job and it pays great money, and you don't have to work that hard, and you work with great people. And all you need to do is click on this link or open this document and sign a non-disclosure agreement so that we can tell you all the details. And even if we're not interested in a new job, curiosity kicks in and the promise of a reward kicks in, and suddenly we're clicking on it. And now we're doing everything the hacker wants us to do. In ransomware, they'll play on our shame. Even if we've never looked at sort of adult sites or done something that we don't really want other people to know about, it's the possibility, even the lie that we might have done that. And we know that that emotion makes people scared. And so they know that to do that is an effective way of getting you to do whatever they want. They'll look at the things that you keep private and threaten to expose them. Everyone is entitled to a private life, but everybody wants to keep some part of their life secret. And that's exactly what criminals will capitalize on. Even anger is one. And I always tell the story of a time when we had a client and they asked us to get everyone in a company to click on a link. And so what we did is we sent an email, a phishing email to everybody, telling them that the Wi-Fi was about to go down and that they had to click on a new Wi-Fi with a link in order to make sure that they didn't lose that day's work. There was no other way of saving it. And so everyone was furious and called. We put a helpline number in as well, a phone number. Everyone was curious. Everyone was angry, but everybody clicked on the link because they didn't want to lose their work. So you can see that what we need to do is find the emotion and then use that emotion to get the person to do what we need them to do. Emotional content is one of the biggest flags for a hack, and certainly for a social engineering hack. And it's the thing that you need to tell everybody that doesn't think like you. So your parents, your grandparents, senior people, particularly kids, to look out for. But which is the right emotion to use? And how does a social engineer know which emotion to use on their target? Remember that this is not necessarily a phishing attack that goes out to just thousands of people, just throws it out there waiting for just anyone to click. This is spear phishing. This is a targeted attack. And we find out what will work on whom using social media. It never used to be a problem. It always used to be a problem, right? Back in the day, I used to have to sit and watch people do lots of phone work to build up a puzzle, to build up a picture of the target and find out what might work on that person. But these days with social media, I don't need to do it. I don't need to sit outside buildings. I don't need to call people. As Mark Zuckerberg said, it's not about what we want to know about people. It's what people want to tell us about themselves. Because you know, and I know, that everything we do is online. That most people will put every part of their lives onto their phones, onto their accounts, and tell the world everything about themselves. From the places that we work and the people that we work with, the places we socialize, our friends, what we care about, our causes, what makes us get out of bed in the morning, our family, our friends, where we exercise, what frightens us, every meal that we eat, every drink that we drink, all of these things these days are entirely online for everybody. And before you think I don't do that, I don't post things online, everybody is connected to everybody else. You remember what I told you earlier? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how careful we are personally, because to a certain extent, you're only as private as your most chatty, your most talkative colleague, your most sort of social media prolific family member, our kids, our cousins, our nieces, our nephews. Younger people tend to post an awful lot and we're connected to them online. Whether it's people that we work with, whether it's just people that we know, we are connected to those who post a lot. And because they post a lot, we can be found online. We can find what the things are, which emotions, which triggers will work for us. And that's what hackers are going to use to get to us all. We're just going to build up a picture, collect the information, and soon we'll know, and hackers know what to do to get to all of us and get past. And so that can look really grim. And so what am I going to say is, if that's the case, who's going to save the world, right? Which of us are going to be superheroes? Because this is huge. This is something that's so big and so frequent that the authorities have real trouble trying to tackle it. So who's going to save the people, right? Who is it that's going to stop this and going to get in the way of the bad guys hacking everyone? And the truth is, it's hackers. Not hackers like this. I see these terrible pictures when I look for hacker pictures online. I mean, look how ridiculous. Look at this one. The most ridiculous pictures of hackers. What I really mean is not hackers like that. What I mean is people who think differently. In fact, people like you who are about to do this hackathon. right? People who look at things in a different way, people who don't follow the herd, who set themselves aside when there's a problem to be solved or there's a different path to be taken, people who lead rather than follow, people who see a light and an opportunity in a bad situation and run with it and go with it. That's what a hacker is. And I want to take back the term for everybody else. I want to take back the term hacker for the people right now, because it's true. You can't download a patch for human stupidity. No, we can't. But what we can do is work with the people and tell them that they're not necessarily the weakest link, that we're the only thing that ever solved any of these problems was a person. And that's really what I mean when I say I don't need to work on the lock. I need to work on the human. Yes, I need to work on locks to get past them. But the biggest part of it is always going to be the humans. They're the only thing that's ever going to solve this problem. And we make mistakes. Of course, we make mistakes. We can't patch our mistakes. Human beings are always going to be halfway between the gutter and the stars. We are always going to be part white hat and part black hat. We're grey, shades of grey, all of us. There's no such thing as the perfect person. None of us are immune to making mistakes. So we're just human. Humans are the place where fallen angels meet rising apes. And because we're human, we'll always be vulnerable. But because we're human, we'll solve these problems. I want to say good luck to all of you in this upcoming hackathon. It sounds like a brilliant event. And it's been my absolute pleasure to talk to you this morning. And thank you for having me. I've been Jenny, and that was the presentation. Thank you. And I'll take questions if there are any now.
Thank you, Jenny, very much, and that was really inspiring keynote and super useful information. And I think it's a really good reminder for all of us that that the security is a big matter for all of us, not only for the security teams, as you mentioned. And one of my takeaways that innocent appearance can lead to innocent mistakes, but it can bring us like huge errors and big hacks, big breaches, big leaks of information, and you're a good example of that. So, so thank you one more time. And of course, I have a few questions for you. You mentioned that 95% of breaches of errors are just because of the humans. And can you tell a little bit more about the social engineering during the COVID times? Because people are more frustrated, they are more vulnerable, and what is the difference now?
Yeah, COVID was the perfect storm for hackers because everyone was, worried. Some people were very frightened with good reason. There was a lack of information, but also everybody went home. And so we lost those security teams. We lost the ability to sit in an office and look up and say, I've had a strange email. What do you think of this? In the moment, we were very kind of isolated, and we lost some of that community that might have said, actually, I wouldn't click on that, or I've had that as well. That doesn't sound right. So people lost those things. And I think that caused a lot of problems for people sort of reacting well to being hacked. But also we know that the hackers and criminals, adapted very quickly, and they changed their story to the COVID story. So in the first week of the UK lockdown, we had 300 new sites. According to Mimecast, we had 300 sites pretending to be Netflix and Amazon and Disney for all the streaming. And that was collecting people's passwords and credit cards and things like that. So that's all been phishing attempts been up 300%. If you just put COVID or vaccine into the subject line, people are more likely to click on those links and open the emails. So from that point of view, it's been huge. The problem we've got now is as people start to go back to work, there's going to be lots more opportunity for social engineering, and particularly physical social engineering, because I can just put a mask on and say, stop, I'm COVID inspector. And no one will really know whether that's true or not, will they? I mean, we'll all expect new things and new rules. And it's still a very dangerous time. So we all need to be very vigilant going forward.
Yeah, a lot of place for manipulation because everybody's terrified. All right, so thank you for an answer. And I have one more question from our viewers. So over the last month here in Lithuania, we had data leakage from a few big companies. And some people were thinking that's a tragedy, it's big, but some of them said, "Oh, it's just it's just my name, surname, email. I'm not very worried about that." So, can you elaborate a bit on what I have mentioned? And everything is important. We just think that we're not important, and how we can use the personal data like this.
Yes. So the main thing is that a lot of people use their email with a password combination. They use it in lots of accounts. So first of all, if they have your email and your name, that's searchable online, and we can find which social media that you use, when you've commented on things, and we can start to gather that information to build a picture of you as a target. That's the first thing. But the second thing is whichever password you use with that email, if you use it on different sites, then all of those sites are compromised now. And so you need to change that password and use a different password on all the sites. Otherwise, your email and password combination is now out there in the wild, and will be getting used potentially. So it's just, we're not to panic. We've got to live our life, and these things are going to happen all the time. If someone is determined enough, they can find out, enough about someone's email already. We know that. But it's good practice to say, okay, those emails have been leaked. Let me check all my emails, make sure all my passwords are different and new, and just keep an eye on my accounts for any strange activity or any activity in my bank account. And those are the things really that we just need to be aware of all the time, just living in a digital world. It can't stop you. It can't stop you from using social media. If it wasn't for social media, I wouldn't be taking part in a great event like this. We've got to own that space and keep it as safe as we can. And then you have to get on and enjoy your life as best you can. Because if we let these things upset us and stop us from living, then the bad guys have won. And we're not going to let that happen.
All right, thank you. And you also mentioned about hacking the kids. So it's the next step, because hacking the people is one thing and hacking the kids is another thing. How you're hacking your kids?
Well, I think younger people have grown up with the internet and social media, and we've never but they've not necessarily been told how dangerous it could be. And so I think it's our job as adults to show them that this is a cool space, but that they need to be careful. And I'm thinking particularly on social media apps, it's basic things that we would have told younger people before the internet or before social media. Don't talk to strangers. Some people will smile, but not be a friend. Only speak to people you know, and don't put information about yourself out there. It's hard to do it because a lot of the apps are based on images. So, I've talked about Instagram or TikTok or all of those apps, and they're fun, right? And the kids want to use them. You can only do so much. This is the world that we live in. But I think we just need to be very aware of the fact that the age group for some of these applications is a certain demographic, and we're the grown-ups in the society, and we've got to kind of keep reminding them and keep helping people on those, because they are places where criminals do hang out. So,
all right, thank you. And probably the last question. So you're a social hacker. You're a people hacker. How you hack people in the real life, not online? Maybe you have some examples to mention, because I know you have some funny stories of that.
Oh, sure. I mean, I have two specialisms. I'm psychology, but I'm physical infiltration. So a burglar, but only if you pay me to be a burglar, right? So I'm not going to steal. I'm not coming into anyone's house or anything. And physical stuff when we meet people is a different skill, really. And I think the one that you're referring to was I was late for a talk. I do lots of keynotes, and it was in the Tower of London, which obviously is a fortress. It's a castle in the middle of London. Really worth going to see if you guys are ever in London. Go to the Tower. But I needed to get in quickly, and in my briefcase in my bag was a lot of my kit that I use to demonstrate. So false IDs. I had some smoke bombs because they're good distractors. You set them off outside a building and everyone runs out and looks at the smoke. And I had some lock picks and hammers and lots of things, naughty things, which are fine because I'm giving a talk, but difficult to explain to the security guard. And he stopped me and he said, "You can come in, but I need to search in your bag, like at the airport." And I thought, this is no good because he won't believe me. This is a difficult situation. So I need to think of something. And I had some water, a bottle of water. And I sort of said, "Pardon," and poured the water on down him. And I said, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. Oh, gosh." And I kind of sort of patted him down a little bit. And I'm sorry. This is terrible. And I was sort of touching his stomach and things. And he went, "Oh, it's okay. It's okay. Go through. And he let me go in. And I was there for good reasons. But if I'd have been a criminal, if I'd have been a bad social engineer, I had all the kit with me I needed to do a lot of damage in the Tower of London. Now, I'm not saying I would have got to the crown jewels. I kind of like being alive and not in prison. But yes, that would be an example of using emotions, embarrassment, and improvising without technology face to face. Now, I know it's your favorite story, Ava, so that's what
it is my favorite story, and I keep smiling on that. But on the other hand, as you say, if it would be different person with different thoughts, with different aim, so the story would be a little bit different from what we can hear today. And I promise that is the last question, but we have one more, and we're showing it now. So do you agree that hackers need only one sport to hack you, and your blue team needs to secure all spots and holes in your company to defend against it? Is to be hacker is easier than blue team expert?
So thank you for that question. And it's a perfect question because absolutely, if you're defending, we need to defend everything all the time, which is a difficult job, and we can't always do that. So blue team job is very difficult. They're right. I only need to get through one time, right? I don't need to hack all the people all the time. I just need one person, one time, to give me the information I need, and I'm in. So as with everything in life, sometimes it's easier to be the bad guy than the good guy, but you have to pick a side early and decide to do everything that you can. And that's why I can talk to you now and I'm not in prison, because I picked a side early on and I decided to be one of the good guys. I'm not an angel. I have a feather, but that's it. I'm not an angel, but I'm on the side of the angels. And because it's so hard to do that, I would suggest that you guys all do that too.
All right. Thank you. So one more thing that I heard during your presentation, that you don't have a hoodie, and I hope we can help you with that in the future. So one more time, thank you very much for your time, for your knowledge, for sharing all the stories. And it was a pleasure to have you here. So I can call you a godmother of our cybersecurity hackathon, all right?
Oh, thank you. Well, it was my pleasure to be here. Good luck, everyone. And I'll see you later in the week. for the mentoring sessions. But it was my pleasure. Thank you.
Right. So thanks for watching us, and see you next time, guys.